Today I'm going to talk about why the Rolex Sky-Dweller is the most underrated and underappreciated watch Rolex has ever done. Let's get into it! Yes, and welcome to the Mad Watch Collector Show. Today we're going to talk about a watch that has been completely misunderstood and ignored by a lot of people around the world. But for good reason. Now today's show is sponsored by BQ Watches. They are the #1 place to go if you're looking at either selling or buying a luxury watch. With a 14-day money-back guarantee, a 2-year warranty, and the highest score on Trustpilot, you'd be mad to go anywhere else. They get the MWC seal of approval, as I have dealt with them on 2 occasions already. Top customer service with a top reputation. Get on the website now, as there are many fantastic deals you and I will love. Now in 2012, Rolex as a brand did something weird. One, they brought out a new reference. This hadn't been done for around 20 years since the Yacht-Master 2. But secondly, they went complicated. Yes, after pioneering the GMT complication in the 1950s for the pilots of Pan Am Airlines, over the years Rolex must have thought to themselves, hang on, so the pilots have got a GMT watch, but what about those high-flying jet setters that are sitting in first class, eating truffles and drinking champagne? Well, obviously, Rolex released the Sky-Dweller. And for the first 5 years, you could only get this watch in precious metals. Well, obviously. However, in 2017, a stainless steel version was made with a white gold fluted bezel. Why the white gold bezel? Well, this, believe it or not, is part of the complication on this Sky-Dweller. And for all of those people that think that Rolexes are just jumped up, highly marketed tool watches that are as complicated as a Timex, today's show's probably going to change your mind. This watch is the epitome of a luxury fidget toy, and even though I've never really lusted after this watch, I've always been intrigued by it and wanted to get my hands on it.
So today's the day!
Let me show you exactly why this is so unique, not only to the Rolex lineup, but to luxury watches in general, and why there's this misconception about this watch. Plus, we gotta have the wife's views at the end of it, haven't we? Are you Sky-Dweller ready? Let's go! So ladies and gentlemen, here is the 326934, a 2020 version of a watch that first came out in 2017. On first inspection, this thing is a chunky monkey. Not only chunky, but a gaudy chunky monkey. Because of that fluted bezel and light catching polished parts and such a unique dial, this thing is definitely an attention seeker. Kind of looks like the bigger brother of a Rolex Datejust, and this older brother has done a degree in fashion. Already handling this watch, I know this isn't for me. It's gonna fit a lot of other wrists, but definitely not mine. It's just over 50mm in lug to lug, 20mm lug width. Well, that's unheard of these days. But we've got a thickness of 14mm. The dial is protected by a sapphire glass. We have the old Rolex Cyclops, a screw down crown at 3 o'clock, and your typical screw down case back. This watch is 100 meters water resistant. Now this particular reference comes with an oyster bracelet and a very generous taper to it, which might make the watch look a little bit head heavy on the wrist if you've got wrist sizes of under 7 inches. Oyster clasp with an on the fly 5mm extension if needed, just like the 214270 I owned. Very well made, and the tolerances are phenomenal. Now let's look at that dial, because there is a lot to unpack. Now this is what Rolex calls bright black. I've never heard bright black being used before. Rolex like to be different. We've got white gold framed applied hour markers, which are going to be very important for a certain complication that this watch offers. I really love the Rolex crown at 12 o'clock. Now that 24-hour ring is not central. At first it looks a bit off, but when you look at it for a bit longer, you realize oh yeah, it's quite good. We've got white gold baton hands. You know, with a complicated dial like this, you don't want too much of a fussy handset. Now, if you look on the outside of the dial, just at the back of the hour markers, you will see an almost sandwich effect, like there is a dial underneath a dial. And if you look at the 1 o'clock marker, you will see that the window is red. This watch offers an annual calendar, something for the hot horologists out there. Now, the 1 o'clock marker is January, and as we've got 12-hour markers and we've got 12 months of the year, it's a very simple but very effective way of indicating the month. Now, we've got lume on the handset, lume on the hour markers. Out of 10, let's see how this puppy glows. So, Rolex's Chromalight, beaming out a lovely blue-green hue. Is this a sports watch? Is it a dress watch? Whatever you believe this watch is, it still has good legibility at night. Right, here comes the fun part, operating this beauty. Now, the movement inside this watch is based on a 3135 that Rolex already made. It's COSC certified, has 72 hours of power reserve, and sweeps away at 28,800 beats per hour. First of all, we unscrew the crown. That allows us to wind it. Ooh, buttery smooth. Now notice when we pull the crown out to the last position, nothing happens when you twist it. That's when the bezel comes in. Turning this fluted beauty counterclockwise to the first position, well, that allows us to change the date. And not only can we go up in the days, we can go backwards in the days. And as you can see, when I reach to number 1 on the date window, that month marker switches to the 2nd hour marker. Twist the bezel another notch, and now, like a GMT-Master 2, we can independently move that hour hand. Turning it one last time, now we can move the minute hand and the dual time 24-hour ring in the middle.
I mean, is this a yuppie's fidget toy or what?
And now you know why the fluted bezel is white gold. Rolex uses white gold, which they have their own foundry for, because white gold doesn't discolor, it doesn't corrode, and when you've got a lot of oil on your fingers, having the bezel white gold makes sense. It's amazing that Rolex uses gears attached to the bezel in order for these functions to work. In actual fact, I think there are 6 patents in this movement alone, exclusively made just for the Sky-Dweller. And with 60 extra components to that base model 3135 movement, you can understand why it's a little bit thick. However, the movement has not increased in width. So I do question why they made it so darn big. Then, however, the light bulb moment comes in. 2012, well, we were still in a big watch era, weren't we? So I think there is definitely room for a smaller Sky-Dweller in the future. But on the movement alone, how cool is that?
Hello.
On my 6.5-inch wrist, and it's just a bit big, isn't it? The actual dial is over 30 millimeters, which gives that big watch illusion already. Just under 14 mil thick. This is a big watch. I would imagine you'd have to have at least a 7-inch wrist to comfortably pull this watch off. And as that is an average size man's wrist, there'll be a few that love it. So there we go. For anyone that has disregarded Rolex as a mass marketed brand, I hope this has shown you that they actually can do complications. The problem is that it doesn't really know what it wants to do. Does it want to go out to the opera, or does it want to skydive? For me, refinement comes in smaller packages. And although there are a lot of refinements to this watch, having it a couple of millimeters smaller in all areas just would enhance that look. But it is definitely a watch I like playing with a lot. It's a Rolex connoisseur's Rolex, you know? And I'm really glad I got to have a good look at it. Now, on the BQ website right now, this 2020 Sky-Dweller is going for £13,750. Brand new, these watches are around £14,500. So even though they're not a Rolex that makes you money, they still hold their value. Anyway, this being pre-owned, there's always a bit of wiggle room. This watch is available on the website right now. And if you are interested in buying a Sky-Dweller, well, this isn't the only one they sell. Get on the website and fill your boots. So here it is, my wife's views of the Sky-Dweller. Oh God. It's very big and very blingy. Also, the dial is very busy. I don't like the shiny bracelet, and why does it have to be so chunky? She doesn't know, does she? You know, typical non-watch folk, they just don't know. Thank you to everyone that's watched till the end. If you want to show more support to the Mad Watch Collector channel, the new Patreon page is up and running now. Early access to shows, behind the scenes content, bloopers reel, and get your name mentioned at the end of the show like these lovely people. But if I've got you for a few more minutes, why don't you click this one? I mean, it's mad to scroll on, Keep my algorithm monkey a swinging. Go on, click it, you'll love it. Go on, click it!